Here at Nordson, we will use two different types of measuring tools to gap the die. You can use a brass feeler gauge, or you can use a brass taper gauge. The brass feeler gauges are a more precise tool. You can set the lip gap within 1 or 2 thousandths across the die. The brass taper gauge is a much easier and faster tool to use, but you can get the lip gap set within 3 or 4 thousandths across the die lip, sometimes even better. When adjusting the die lip, you will need to bend the lip smoothly. In order to do this, you need to adjust around 5 bolts. Adjust 1 bolt in the area that you need adjustment, and then adjust each bolt on either side of that bolt in half. And then each bolt on either side of them by half of that amount. This will ensure that there is a smooth bend in the lip and that the lip bolts do not bind against each other. And I will show you. On our push-pull systems, if one of the bolts is pushing too much and the bolts that are next to it are not being moved, it can bind the bolts and cause damage. We see this firsthand when out on our service calls. Something else that we see is if the bolt is bound up, someone puts a cheater bar on the wrench and tries to move the bolt. This is usually where damage occurs. This T-handle is what Nordson recommends using on your die. We do understand that sometimes due to space constraints that different tools may be needed. But make sure that the lever arm is not so long that it will cause damage to the bolt or other parts on your die. When making changes to the lip, you need to make sure that all of the lip bolts are in compression. If the lip bolts are not in compression, there is a possibility that the lip gap will open in those areas.